Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Command with me, REinstein. We're in the career mode and very soon we have a transfer window to Eve. Now, the cool thing about that is that it's going to gather me a lot of science. It's going to require a rather interesting rocket design, one of my favorite rocket designs actually, but it's also going to need a heat shield. So at the same time as launching our rocket to Eve, or roughly at the same time, Eve obviously has a moon, which is Gilly. Now, Gilly is very, very different in order to land on it or approach it. You don't need a heat shield, etc., etc. So, the important thing to know is I'm going to be launching two rockets at the same time so that we can use roughly the same transfer window. Now, the contracts I'm going to be completing are one flyby Eve, so that's going to give us 176,000 Kerbal credits. Explore Eve, which gives us a lot, perhaps 300,000, perhaps 300 plus 30 plus 60 plus 30 plus 30, etc. And we're also going to be exploring Gilly. Now, if you take into account the three values that we're going to be getting as a reward, I think it adds up to roughly 700, 800,000. Now, if I go into the vehicle assembly building and show you the awesome little craft that I've built, that will get us there, you will see how much that costs in relation to how much profit we're going to be making. So first of all, we've got the Gilly unmanned lander. Now let me just show you around this bad boy. So unmanned, obviously, because we're just going to be sending AI there. We're not going to be sending any Kerbals. And for that, we're using the Probodybine Octo. Now, apart from that, we've got some tiny little landing legs. It's taking the Science Junior. All of our other scientific instruments, so we've got the temperature, seismic accelerometer, barometer, etc. We've got our Kerbal Engineer Redux modded part there, so we can see what our delta V is going to be in total for the mission and at different stages. I've got solar panels, and I've also got a Airstream protective shell, our fairing, which I'm deploying in a clamshell formation. So you can see that only costs 66,000 Kerbal credits, and it's rather a nice little rocket. And I've practiced with it a few times going to Eve, and it flies really well. Now, the Eve rocket is very, very similar. So if I just switch over to that and go to Eve Unmanned Lander, you can see that this one costs 67,000, and it differs only very slightly at the top. Because Eve has an atmosphere, we need a heat shield, and on that heat shield I've got an ablator of 60. We can't take the Science Junior, or maybe we could, but I didn't want to risk it. We also need parachutes for this, so I've got a couple of drogue chutes and the Mark 16 parachute on top. Also the same scientific instruments, apart from the Scientific Junior. Now, if we go to leave here and take a little look at the tracking station, we can get an idea of what Eve and Gilly are like. So if we zoom out here and take a little look at the solar system at large, let's go into Eve. Now, if we zoom in on Eve, we can see it's a beautiful purple colour. If anyone's familiar with Quality Street, the chocolate confectionery we have in England, it looks like a purple Quality Street. Beautiful. It's got a few pieces of landmass. I believe all the lighter areas are liquid, and there's a massive landmass here. Now, if we take a little look at Eve's characteristics, so we can see the important ones to note are the ASL gravity, so it's 1.7 G. That means it's 1.7 times Earth's Kerbin's gravity, sorry. And it requires an escape velocity of 4,832 meters per second. So this is a one-way mission. We don't have the technology to escape Eve at the moment. Its sphere of influence is 85,000 kilometers, so as long as we're above that, we won't be sucked down into oblivion, into a landing we haven't planned. The atmospheric height, so it does contain an atmosphere, it's 90,000 meters and below is its atmosphere. Pressure's quite high, 5 atmospheres, and that's pretty much all we need to know. So that's why we need a, what do you call it, a dissipator of heat, a heat shield. Then if we take a little look at Gilly, Gilly's an entirely different beast. Gilly has minuscule gravity, it's intensely out of shape, it's a rather wobbly rocky mass of nothingness. It's tiny as well. It's only 13 kilometers all the way around. Tiny gravity, as I said, and no atmosphere. So that's why we don't need our parachutes or a heat shield. Hence why I'm taking along the Science Junior on that rocket. Now, all I'm going to show you is the launch of one of the rockets. I don't think it's really that interesting to see both, but essentially I'll be launching one. Once I've got that into an orbit, I'll be launching another one, and yeah, they'll essentially use the same transfer window. So, which one should we launch first? Let's use the Eve unmanned lander. We'll take that to the launch pad, and we don't need to worry about the safety of any Kerbals. In my current timeline, Jebediah is still nowhere to be seen. If we take a little look at our alarm clock, Jeb's maneuver needs to be done in just over a year, so he's well out of the way. Poor old Jeb. Right, without further ado, let's launch it. Because I've got the solid fuel boosters, I barely need to use any thrust whatsoever from my mainsail liquid engine at the bottom there. But I do keep it on the same stage, primarily because it gives me some sort of control over the rockets. Occasionally, I'm just going to increase my thrust a little bit there. Primarily, the solid fuel boosters give you a hell of a lot of thrust, but they're not very controllable. So that's why I'm just engaging the liquid mainsail engine just a tad. Alright, now the flight characteristics of this rocket are actually rather good. I can almost do a gravity turn while turning SAS off. Now, it depends how this particular launch goes, but we'll soon find out. Alright, you can see the thrust generated from these 4 kickback solid fuel boosters is just immense. Like, I can nearly... In fact, I probably will reach 12,000 meters and above, which is when we need to start turning right a bit more heavily before they've run out of fuel. But it does mean we conserve a lot more fuel for our liquid engines, so that is a good thing. Alright, here we go. Yes, so we're at 14,000 meters now. So what I'm going to try now is turning off my SAS and just tilting to the right, and very soon it should start tilting right on its own. So let's take a look. Will it do that? Just need to push it a bit more, I think. Take a little look at our apoapsis height. It's going to be reaching 44,000 meters, and I think what we're hitting now is our gravity turn. That is turning unassisted. I'm not actually touching it at all, which is quite frankly a victory on my books. I'm quite happy about that. Because, you know, as you know, if you're a regular viewer, I often struggle with gravity turns. Trying to get them as efficient as possible is a struggle for me. Now, we're quite high enough now, 40,000 meters up, so I'm just going to tilt my rocket fully towards the horizon. And then just accelerate for a long while. Now, as long as our apoapsis gets above 70,000 meters, then we'll be happy. I might get it up to about 80 or 90,000, and then I will cut the engines and do the rest of my burn once we reach our apoapsis. I'm still undecided about whether I should continue burning, like right now, or if I should stop burning right now and then get to the apoapsis, then do a maneuver, because we'll be in the vacuum of space, so theoretically it should increase the efficiency of our engines. I'm still undecided about whether that would work and be better or not, but here we go. So my apoapsis is going to be at 91,000 meters, and we're just going to set a maneuver there. We're going to drag that out. Simple, simple. Let's take a look at our periapsis. 83,000, apoapsis 91,000. A good maneuver. So, as you can see, we are decelerating now as we approach our apoapsis, which you would expect. So that's why I'm undecided about whether that's more efficient to do it this way or not. If anyone wants to guide me on that, I'd be very much appreciative. If you want to fill me in on the science of why it is or isn't more efficient to burn beforehand, I would, like I say, appreciate that. So let's get to 6 seconds here at our node in T and circularize our orbit. There's also something I'm a little unsure of when I'm trying to get or escape Kerbin's sphere of influence, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. There we go, that burns roughly circularized. Now, so we're obviously going clockwise around the sun. There's Eve, and our maneuver will be about around here somewhere where we need to set our maneuver. Now, what I'm thinking is, because that's an inner planet, i.e. its orbit is closer to the sun than our orbit, I think what I should do is burn on the dark side of Kerbin here, say at the periapsis, so that we're pushing towards Eve. That makes sense to me in some weird way. I think that's right. So if we wanted to go to an outer planet, then I would, let's say Duna, then I would burn on the light side of the planet. Let me just zoom in. Burn roughly where we are now. So we push our apoapsis out this way. Hopefully you follow me, and hopefully I'm right on that respect. I'm not 100% sure, like I said. But what I am going to do now is do what I think is the right thing. Is go roughly to my periapsis and push our orbit out to the inner part of the solar system. And then we'll be captured into the gravity well of the sun. We'll have a nice orbit. And then we can figure out our encounter with Eve. So let me just rotate our rocket. As I said, once I've set this burn up, the video is going to be over. Most likely, I'm not sure how that's going to work right now. And I'm going to launch the Gilly rocket because, as I said, you don't want to miss a transfer window. Might as well send them both at once. I could perhaps even complete the mission with one rocket, but I've never done it this way before, so why not try something new, eh? Right, let's get to about 12-13 seconds node in T. That'll mean we'll do half our burn before we reach the node and half a burn after. Half of the burn after we have passed the node. So hopefully that's the most efficient way of doing it. Right, here we go. So 15 seconds, 14, 13. Alright, let's push ourselves in that direction. Here we go. So let's take a look at the wonder and splendor of space. Now you can see the moon in the distance there. There's Kerbin on our left. And, well, at least our AI controlled machine doesn't have to miss anyone. If this was a manned mission, then poor old Jebediah or someone would be away from their family for a good long time. Right, now we're on to our tiny part of our rocket, which is kind of cool. And we could even deploy our Airstream protective shell right now because we're not experiencing any atmospheric forces. But I'm not going to bother. I'm going to leave it down to the staging process. And all will be well with the world. There we go. So we're now going to be escaping into the inner part of the solar system. Now, the reason I'm going to stop the video here and launch my next vehicle, the Gilly one, is because it takes 8 days to escape Kerbin, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to send the other one out at roughly the same time. Alright, hopefully this has been a good video, guys, and you've enjoyed it. If you could click the like button, that would be great. I really appreciate all the support you guys are giving me so far as well. Lots of Patreon sponsors, which I can't thank you enough for. Lots of comments coming in. Please share my videos with everyone. And have a great day. I'll see you all very soon, guys. Bye-bye.